This is Jalal Khan's Philosophy. Welcome to my new channel. You're watching a book review of the last sequel of the Strange series, The Night Eternal. It was authored by both Guillermo del Toro and Chuck Hogan. So these two authors are also directors. They both directed a couple of movies, and Guillermo del Toro actually was featured in a video game by the name of Death Stranding. It was released around 2018. So he is actually a very popular author and director. He directed all the Hellboy trilogy, also Blade 2, and also the Pan's Labyrinth. So he is a very popular name when it comes to books and movies. So the book is about vampires. Now, I'm usually not interested in vampire or zombie movies. Mostly I might play a couple of video games about them, but when it comes to books, I'm mostly into epic fantasy and other books. But this despite of that, this book was really good. It was really well written, very poetic, very introspective, and it's not a surprise because Del Toro made Pan's Labyrinth, which was one of the, I'll say, one of the most beautiful movies I've ever watched. So what is it about? It's about an infection which changes people into vampires, and eventually it got so powerful and they controlled the whole world. And it was revealed afterwards that it's actually the vampires were behind, or at least the leaders of vampires, they were behind all the events throughout history, such as democracy. It's like they were a shadowy government. They were controlling the world behind the scenes, and they were just waiting for the right opportunity to for their last phase, which was controlling the entire universe. It was most like a post-apocalyptic world where people are now living in tribes again, and water is scarce, food is a privilege, hygiene is a privilege, and even the protagonists are, in a way, it took a toll on their health and their psychology. They were malnourished, for instance, and this is something which a lot of directors and authors usually, when, like for example, The Walking Dead, everybody in The Walking Dead was very strong, but here the author mentioned that these guys were having psychological problems, they were weak, and it was very hard for them to even fight the vampires at times. The relationship between the characters, it kind of made people who would have never met in the real world in a way meet here in the post-apocalyptic world, and even fall in love with each other. So for instance, Dr. Nora Martinez, who is a doctor in the Centers for Disease Control, came along and started forming a relationship with Vasil Tifet, who is a rat exterminator. So a doctor having a relationship with a rat exterminator is something which in our world is unheard of, but because it's a post-apocalyptic world, it kind of brings in people of different background to come together and even form relationships. We are talking about vampires teaming up with officers, with doctors, teaming up with gang members to fight off the bad and evil vampires. So despite it being the only book I've read of the Strange series, I understood everything. This last one, The Night Eternal, I did a pretty good job in explaining and introducing the characters, just explaining them, who they were, the background. If you are not, maybe you don't have time to read the whole series, you can just jump to the last book and you will still not be left out. You'll still understand the whole thing. The ending was quite poetic as well. It was like starting a video game and finishing it, because every time I wake up I wanted to like read this book, and the ending was very emotional. I thought that Christian Jack's book, Ramses Battle of Kadesh, I thought that was going to be the best book I read in 2022, but The Night Eternal actually topped all the book that I've read. Since this is the 6th book I've read in 2022, I'm not that much of a big reader, but I started reading on July, so this is the 6th book I've read, and it's the best book I've read so far last year. I would highly recommend this book. So yeah, this is the book review of Night Eternal by Chuck Hogan and Guillermo del Toro.